in I hope 10 minutes is try to just give you in a summary the sense of direction of where IUCN is at the moment in its work on World Heritage, and to try to synthesize a few different parts of the jigsaw. So I won't talk to you in detail about IUCN's new program framework, but you see it here and you'll get a sense of the direction we're trying to take within that framework. Where we are at this turning point of the 40th anniversary of the convention, where we are with the motion that Penny mentioned being debated later on in this session on the convention, the whole creation of this idea of the protected planet and how World Heritage provides an integral part of that. And lastly, as my advertisement to tell you just some of the senses of directions that we have with World Heritage at this Congress, where we have 18 events of different kinds taking place. And if you please pick up while you're here the brochure, which is shown in the centre of this slide, which tells you what's going on and where through the remainder of the forum. Guy's already introduced this, so I just want to preface taking you into three areas of discussion about the programme with this overall sense of the significance of the World Heritage Convention and its achievement over the last 40 years, with 217 sites covering more than 10% of the hectareage of protected areas globally, a really under-recognised achievement. And again, here to emphasise that that is also why World Heritage is an integral part of what we wish to do more broadly on protected areas. I want to just really then speak to three different ideas about where IUCN is with World Heritage. And the first is the advisory role that we perform. Guy has in many ways covered this aspect of our work. Every year we go to the annual meeting of the World Heritage Committee, the international body that takes the decisions on behalf of the convention. We represent natural heritage in our role as the advisory body, and that means a very large amount of work to service the committee. Guy again has summarised these figures. In the last 4 years, since the Congress last met, over 200 monitoring reports have been put forward in relation to key threats that have been identified, and I won't take you through some of the sites there, but you'll recognise some of the examples that Guy gave. Also in the last 4 years we've evaluated 36 nominations for new sites, and 18 sites have been newly included on the World Heritage list, including some of those big gap filling and also major marine sites that Guy mentioned. But there is a challenge. This is a different version of the slide that Guy showed. The decline that Guy showed in terms of concordance actually relates to both IUCN and ICOMOS's advice jointly, as I follow that statistic. This is a different way of showing what's happened in the last 3 years, which is which sites were put on the World Heritage list that were recommended for inscription or not recommended for inscription. And our advice is essentially framed within the rules the World Heritage Committee has set for the convention about how sites should be inscribed, which is not only that they have the values necessary, but they have the integrity requirements in place, and they have appropriate protection and management. And you can see here that really the last 3 years have been a pretty bloody story for us, with a significant number of sites, a significant percentage of the sites we're dealing with, which is still a relatively small number, but a definite drop in terms of the agreement we have with the committee on sites being inscribed. And we interpret that as the committee not really following the rules that it set for itself about the standards that are expected for World Heritage listing. I think another challenge is the list in danger, which is intended to signify the need for international support, but really firstly, as again Guy has noted, it's increasingly challenging to have the committee agree that sites that meet the criteria for danger listing get included. This year we recommended 4 sites that met those criteria, and none were put on the list in danger. But I think at the same time the danger list isn't doing enough to mobilise the sort of support which was expected from it for sites that are threatened. And thirdly, I think this year we saw a worrying decision which was part of what is a very definite growing pressure on World Heritage areas from mining development, which has always been seen as an absolute no-go issue as far as World Heritage is concerned. But there was a decision this year to excise a uranium mining concession in the Selous game reserve in Tanzania, and I think that really kind of causes concern about the potential that we'll see that as the thin end of a wedge. So 2 key messages out of that first role for us that I'd like to put forward. One is a sense that we really should be clear that the World Heritage Committee, but also the states that entrust sites to the World Heritage Convention, should be more clearly accountable to uphold the standards of the Convention and also address the threats that are being identified. But also to really see the committee fulfill that role. It seems to us that there needs to be more voices than IUCNs really in the room. And we had a good experience this year, which you'll hear more about later on, of having a much stronger NGO voice being articulated within the committee. And we think that really needs to be part of the process, and also for communities to be much better engaged in the nominations before they come to the committee. The second point I want to come to is the idea of advice being turned into action, and really to say that the direction of travel for the World Heritage Programme in IUCN is to no longer really see our work as solely about going to the World Heritage Committee and that being what we put our energy into, but seeing that as part of a much bigger effort through World Heritage to address conservation. I'd like to just note, and it's great to see Linda Manson here from the Marva Foundation, that this is a direction of travel which has been catalysed by the support that the Marva Foundation has provided us with at the moment and for the next couple of years to sort of start to change the way we do business. The two things I'd like to mention in terms of a new approach are, firstly, to be much more active about identifying the gaps that exist still on the World Heritage List, significant areas that could exist, and this is a publication that we've put together with UNEP WCMC on gaps in Africa, but then to work with the states to encourage them to think about putting those sites forward. And it's a pleasure to see with that initiative with identifying gaps in Africa that we're starting to see the sites that are identified here with the Namib Berg come forward as nominations as a result of that effort, and following it up to support organisations to deliver training and capacity building. And the second thing I'd like to note in terms of changing the way we do business is the idea of not only reacting to issues, but an approach that would be what you could call proactive monitoring. And one of the things which the evaluation of the convention has put forward is the idea we should do more proactive monitoring. And you'll hear us using this phrase conservation outlook in the years ahead, because we think we really need to understand the whole of the Natural World Heritage List and what the outlook is for conservation of all of the sites. At the moment, if you think of the system we have, it looks like this within the World Heritage Convention. We have reactive monitoring, we have the list in danger, and other things that react to concern. So far we don't have instruments that really look at good practice and best practice. And the idea of conservation outlook will be to really take the standards we have identified through WCPA in particular and apply them in a consistent and simple way to all of the Natural World Heritage sites, to look at their values, to look at the threats that exist to them, to look at how effective their management is, and to give a simple identification of whether that means we think that they're in a good state, a state which is good with some concerns, of significant concern, and in some cases a critical state of conservation. And that, we think, will get us to a much better position in terms of really looking at the World Heritage List, but to connect that idea of assessing outlook to the idea of the action and the needs that the sites have. So we want to see the assessment of sites leading to our ability to mobilise conservation action on the ground. And so here a key message is that we think we should be much more proactive as a whole and through all of IUCN to engage in supporting the conservation of sites, and it's going to take the whole of the community of IUCN to be engaged in that process. And that takes me to my third and final point, which is the idea that we should be building an approach to World Heritage conservation, which is looking at conservation from the ground up, looking at the site level. It's really pleasing to me that we've had an approach through the last 2 or 3 years where we've been managing to work with the regional offices of IUCN to, partly directly through the support we have and partly through the interest in the regional offices, start to build a network of staff in the regions who in whole or in part are working on World Heritage, and here are the faces of them, to also work with WCPA to start to think how that might work in the WCPA regions. And Alan Putney, who's not at this Congress, just steps out of his role as the Vice Chair at World Heritage at the moment, so he's been instrumental in our thinking with WCPA about where we go next. But also thinking how we're going to get members and commissions and partners involved in this effort. We're thinking as well about youth, and we have the only initiative at the moment focused on youth with partner organisations in IUCN with the Go for Biodiv initiative. So how are we going to really connect with the youth agenda? And then more in a more large way, how are we going to build people into the work that we're doing on World Heritage? And Gonzalo Oviedo will open up that issue more fully, but I think it's quite clear to us that conservation results on the ground don't just rely on coming and monitoring the outstanding universal value of sites. They rely on really managing the places as a whole and with the people that live in and around those places, looking at the whole question of the benefits that people secure from World Heritage. So my closing messages from that third task of the programme is really this need, as we look forward to the next 4 years and beyond, to build our capacity across all of IUCN in all of the regions, and to invest in that in the long term, and for that to be a big exercise, not just for staff, but for the whole of the IUCN family. And to focus on this question of how do communities and their aspirations and their perceptions and the values that they ascribe to what we call natural World Heritage sites, but are for most people the places that they live in and value and rely on the ground, and how can that be a much more central part of what we do. So Penny, those are my remarks, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Tim, and you might have made my task at the end a lot easier by putting those very succinct and, to me, apt messages up. Our next speaker is Harold Lossack. Harold is working as the head of the Competence Centre, Biodiversity, Forests and Natural Resources at GIZ Headquarters, Division of the Environment and Climate Change. His background is a social and political scientist, since UNCED 92 in the area of environmental policy, from 1995 to 2003, working as GIZ Program Coordinator in the International Pilot Program for Conservation of Brazilian Rainforests, and since then the coordinator of a sector program on the follow-up process to the Rio Conference. Since 2008, he's been the head of the above Competence Centre. So Harold, thank you very much, and you're going to, oops, lost the light, going to speak to us on World Heritage and Sustainable Development, getting results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much. We have a very big audience, and it's a great pleasure for me to speak to you a little bit from the perspective of development cooperation.
Can I just check something, Harold? I'm sorry.
Yes.
What's the sound level like in the back? Not good enough. Okay.
Not good enough, okay.
So we'll get it a little bit closer and then do a check.
Okay, it's better now? Okay, thank you very much. We are looking back on a very fruitful and very outstanding cooperation with IUCN and UNESCO in this area, and I will touch some of the aspects which we think that are important. What is GIZ? We are a federal enterprise, government-owned enterprise, and we run majority of the projects and programs of German development cooperation in the technical area. Biodiversity and poverty alleviation are key areas of German development policy, and this is expressed as well by the commitment of the German government to put from 2013 500 million euros annually for the conservation of biodiversity and the support of the CBD strategic plan, which was discussed at the Nagoya conference. GIZ has participated in the conference in Nagoya, and we take in the area of biodiversity the strategic plan as a guiding principle, which is just guiding our commitments around the world in our partner countries. How do we work? In general, we try to, within our programs and projects, effectively strengthen management capacities of our partners. Partners can be governments, can be civil society organizations, or private actors, private sector. And what we are looking for is a good and equitable governance structure, especially in the field of biodiversity or environment policy in general, and always linked with income-generating activities to meet the other goal of German Development Cooperation, which is poverty alleviation. How do we do this? In general, we have trainings. We, in the area of protected areas, training for planners, managers, field staff. We cooperate in the elaboration of co-management business plans, and in some aspects as well in sustainable tourism. We are around the world in many projects. Most of them are exclusively dedicated to a particular site, but on the other hand, we also assess our partners in running national systems of protected areas, and with regards to the World Heritage Sites, we can say that around the world we have about close connection to more or less 25 World Heritage Sites, and some were mentioned, like Serengeti. We are starting a new project, a new program with Serengeti, which is a follow-up of the decision not to construct the road. What are we doing in World Heritage? Tim already mentioned the International Youth Forum, Go for Biodiv. We started this in cooperation with IUCN and other partners in 2008. It was a commitment by our Federal Ministry of Cooperation, and the idea is just to invite for every conference of the parties of the CBD young people from all over the world, selected natural heritage sites, to come together and discuss the issues of the World Heritage Sites, and to convey messages to the decision makers who meet at the high level segments of the CBD. In this year, there will be the next COP in India, and we have a new commitment by the Ministry of Environment and Forests in India, in Germany, excuse me, and the government of India will take part in this effort as well, and various international partners like IUCN and UNESCO will take part as well. We will focus this year on coastal and marine biodiversity, and this is one of the emerging issues in German Development Cooperation as well. In this sense, there is our new publication on our treasures at risk. It came out from printing shortly, and I don't know if there are any copies left. I have one copy here, and hope but we can send more to you later on. What is World Heritage? What does it mean for us, and what does the convention mean for us? I think the convention is the ideal instrument because it can create synergies with CBD and implement its program of work on protected areas. It's an ideal instrument as well to gather stakeholders and together interested parties from all over the world, and this has to be continued. World Heritage Sites, it has already been mentioned, are the flagships of protected areas. They can set the standards and demonstrate best practices for other protected areas. They can also create visibility and create a better understanding in the public for biodiversity and conservation issues. And we have a very good window of opportunity. It's a decade of opportunity. It's a decade on biodiversity, and we can use this decade to really